My guest on the show this afternoon is Henry Normal, who is just an inspirational poet, been all over the place, all over the TV. And we are very, very pleased to have him here on Can Do FM today. Now, Henry, I read that you got into poetry at a young age, inspired by the likes of Bob Dylan and John Lennon. How did their lyrics spark your passion for poetry, leading to your first book at just 19 years old?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. And thanks for having me on. I've been all over the world, but I have been to Barrow. The last time I came to Barrow, the Berlin Wall came down.
Oh gosh.
That's how momentous it was, me coming to Barrow. So imagine what's going to happen this time, because I'm coming with Brian Bilston. So
Right.
we could find life on Mars. All sorts of things could happen. So yeah, I started off. My mum died when I was 11, and I got very introvert. And at school, we had a great English teacher, and I used to read a lot. And he was very canny at getting us involved by using song lyrics. So Imagine, that had come out by John Lennon. We looked at the lyrics for that, and I remember him saying, why did he write this? Because he's got enough money as a Beatle. What is his purpose? And so we looked at it, and if you look at the words for Imagine, it's very much like a poem. And of course, he introduces to Bob Dylan. Now, at the time, he wasn't a Nobel laureate, so my teacher was ahead of the curve there.
Yeah.
And we looked at a song called "God on Our Side," in which I think it's about 3,000 verses long, as Bob Dylan's songs sometimes are.
Yeah.
And it was all about everybody that fights thinks that they've got God on their side. And that drew me in. And there is a big tie over with poetry and songs. I mean, they're both forms of communication, and they're both looking to encapsulate something in a small amount of words. And they both use rhyme occasionally, and certainly rhythm. And I was drawn in and entranced. And then, of course, I got to read the Liverpool poets, and they were funny as well. Not many. There are some song lyrics that are funny, but I thought they were particularly astute at
Yeah.
working class culture, and that
Yeah.
was
They
really.
sort of communicated differently as well, didn't they? It was poetry that you could understand, which I know is one of your sort of famous quotes, really.
Oh yes, to be enjoyed, not endured.
Yeah.
The thing. Yeah, you see, I used to look at the telly when I was a kid, and I'd see all this glamour and everything. And I was brought up in the 60s, and it wasn't like that in Nottingham. So in Nottingham, it was like we were still in the 30s. And I used to think this is not reflecting my life at all. So when the Liverpool poets and Adrian Mitchell and Spike Milligan used to write poems as well, when they all came out, they were writing about a life that I could understand, as opposed to they were sort of punk
Mm.
before punk in a way. That this was the first wave, and I was drawn into it, and I love it. And of course, it's been the template for me ever since, to try and
Great.
be accessible, a little bit funny, and certainly true to life.
Now, you've had a fascinating journey mixing poetry with the music scene, even touring with Pulp. How did this blend of poetry and music shape your unique style of performance?
Well, yes, when you get up in front of a pop audience or a punk audience, they've not really come for poetry,
No.
so you've got to be on your toes. And it was funny enough, when I toured with Pulp, it was before they were famous, and Jarvis had fell out of a window and he broke his legs. So I had to wheel him on in a wheelchair. And people thought, you remember Morrissey had those fake glasses at the
Yeah.
time, and he had like a fake earpiece. And I think they thought that Jarvis was going one further and having a fake wheelchair, but he had actually broke his legs. And he used to dance in his wheelchair in his famous dancing. They were great gigs. I even did a Battle of the Bands competition. I always remember there were about 8 bands, and every band hated the other bands because they wanted to win. And the only thing they had in common is they all hated me. So it was a long old night, but I managed to beat them beat them to a pulp. I used to enjoy it. So you got to be on your toes. The poetry you have to do is got to be what you might call lad proof. What's nice now, over the years, I've moved from doing bands with gigs with bands to doing theatre shows. And the show that we do at Barrow, Brian and myself, it's a lot more nuanced. I love that. You know, you want to experience the full gamut of emotions, not just sort of impotence and rage.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, let's take a little break, shall we? And we'll come back shortly and talk about behind the scenes at Baby Cow Productions. Joining us on Can-Do FM today, we have Henry Normal, who is the poet and radio star and TV personality. Now, running Baby Cow Productions, it must have been quite an adventure. Out of all the shows that you produced, and there are many, which one do you feel you had a special connection to, and what's the story behind it?
That's lovely for you to ask. I must pick you up on this. I'm not a TV personality. I'm hardly an actual personality. You mind a TV personality?
You are. You
I
are.
was actually invited
You
on.
are. You're putting yourself down there. You've been at the forefront of the most iconic
Oh
pop
yeah, but I keep
culture
myself behind the
over the
scenes.
past 30 years.
I keep myself behind the scenes so nobody recognises who I'm, so I can sit on a bus without being hassled. That's my plan. Yeah, I made lots of things. We made about 450 television programs and a dozen films. Obviously, the most successful was Philomena, which got nominated for 4 Oscars and won lots of BAFTAs. Even gave me a BAFTA just for being me, which was lovely. I didn't have to compete for that, because I'm the specialist at being me. So I managed to get that. The TV shows, there's lots of great. I mean, obviously, Gavin and Stacey was very successful. As you know, I wrote the first series of Royal Family, so that was nice. As far as Baby Cow's concerned, the Mighty Boosh, I have a fondness for, and the Nighty Night and all the stuff I did with Julia Davis. But the one that really sticks out is my wife's film, Snowcake, with Sigourney Weaver and Alan Rickman. Because it's based loosely on my son, who's autistic. He's 25 now, and he's severely autistic. And Angela was trying to, she's a writer as well, she's trying to express herself, and she was looking for a story to express some of the stuff that we'd learned bringing up Johnny. And but you can't just write, ordinary day's life of a family with autism. Nobody would go out to the cinema to see it. So I reminded her, I was an insurance broker when I was 20, and there was a bloke who used to come in, and he was a lovely bloke, and he was always very quiet. And I asked about him, and what he'd done was he'd picked up an hitchhiker, and he'd had an accident, and the hitchhiker died, and this had affected the rest of his life. And so I told Angela this, and she thought, oh, that's a great story. What if the person that dies is the carer for an autistic person? And so that was the start of the film. And so we managed to get Sigourney Weaver in this, and Alan Rickman, and lots of other great people. Carrie-Anne Moss from the Matrix films. Usually, we got Harry Potter, Matrix, Alien. We got all the big franchises into the film, and Stevie from Schitt's Creek, she was in it as well. So it was a great film. And the premiere was in Berlin, and I went to Berlin with Ange, because I was an executive producer on the film, because it was a Baby Cow, as well as Revolution with the other people. And I stood in Berlin. I've never been to Berlin before, and I'm in a tuxedo. And Sigourney Weaver's next to me, and we're at this premiere, and it's all posh. And I'm a lad from a council estate, right? And I used to watch these black and white films on telly when I was a kid, and it looked just like one of those. And there was a book of matches on the table. I've never seen a book of matches in real life, only ever in films. And there's a book of matches, and she smoked cigars. So she put the cigar in her mouth, and I lit a cigar, and it was like being in an old film. I
Yeah.
made it. I was in the movies.
Great stuff. Great stuff. That's a great story. I'd like to know when it was that you met my dad to write him into the royal family.
Well, the great thing is that the royal family is a bit of everyone, isn't it? And that was a lovely thing that we wrote down. I mean, that first series, there's so many lines that our dads and mums and aunties and uncles and we've said over the in real life, that everybody went, oh yeah, I've said the exact same thing. And I love that. And strangely enough, when we wrote the first episode in 2 hours,
Right.
right? That's how quick it was, just came out of us. And the second episode we wrote, it took us about 4 hours over the course of a fortnight because we didn't work very hard. And we had these two for about a year. We had these two episodes, and the BBC didn't quite understand it. They kept saying things like, "Can you make them nicer?" We said, what are you talking about? He said, well, they're not very nice to each other, are they? And we said, it's not Dallas. They're not going to say, I love you, and I love you too, son. It's from the north. Don't happen. Yeah, it took a while for them to understand. They said to us, can we have a plot in the second episode? And we said, there's not a plot in the first
No.
episode. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? And they said, well, yeah, no, there is, because he asked about the phone bill twice. And they were trying to make it into the formula that they knew.
Yeah.
Whereas what we were trying to do was present real life actually as it happened. So half an hour on the screen was half an hour of real life, and nothing much happens in our half an hour of real life. So if somebody made a cup of tea, it would take as long as it takes to make a cup of tea. That was the plan. And yeah, that first series it had very little plot. A little bit happened, but very little. And of course, they got married at the end. I think Caroline and Craig, who were brilliant, then took it in future series and Christmas specials, took it further and further. And I went off into films and television production. Because I wanted to stay near home. They were up in Manchester, and my wife Angela was in Brighton. So I give it up for love. What can I tell you?
Yeah. Well,
The best
that's a nice
reason for
thing to
doing
give it
anything, isn't
up
it? Really.
for. Yeah. Yeah. We'll take another break there. Come back and talk about radio and personal stories. We have Henry Normal on Candu FM today, and we've been talking about all your great career and the great shows that you've been involved with. Your Radio 4 shows are a blend of comedy, poetry, and personal tales. What's it like sharing those personal aspects of your life with the public, and how has this affected your connection with your audience?
Well, I think it's lovely because because most of the things I talk about are real things that have happened. It means that it's new and fresh, and nobody else has done it before. My wife Angie's she's very dry with her humour and very sardonic at times. So I just have to basically live a few weeks, and she'll provide the material just by taking the mick out of me. So she's my my muse, and I talk about my son, and I think there's a lot of love in it, and I don't do. I've talked about my mother-in-law, but she's actually great. So it's not like Les Dawson, although I understand he did love his mother-in-law. It was just for comic effect. But I try to stay as true as possible. So very often when I'm doing a story, even though it seems incredibly embarrassing, it did happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, with such a remarkable career, and even having a beer and a bus named after you in Nottingham, I believe, how do you reflect on your impact in both the literary world and in entertainment? Yeah, big
this
one
this
that.
is for future generations to agonize over, isn't it? Do you know, I don't even think about it. I just think about what I'm doing today. What's been lovely is I've met lots of great people, lots of great funny women over the years. I worked with Attie Ridge and Linda Smith, Carolina Hearn, and Ruth Jones and Julia Davis and everything. And it just helped a little bit where I could, and I met lots of funny blokes, and obviously worked with Steve, who's like a world famous star now, but was just a scally when I met him, and yeah, it's been a fantastic journey. It's a good job if you can get paid to sit in a room and have a laugh.
Yeah.
And I've been able to sit in rooms with very funny people and have a laugh, and
Very
yeah,
talented people though as well. I mean, you managed to, it's like
That's
the
my
perfect storm,
skill.
isn't
That's
it?
my skill. I
Yeah.
managed to pick talented people. Now I'm
Yeah.
touring with Brian Bilston. I reckon I'm the way I'm seeing it is I'm John the Baptist to his
Right.
Jesus.
Oh,
He,
right.
he's a bit like me, except he's more handsome, more intelligent, funnier, and cleverer.
Yeah.
And you see, I said clever and intelligent. You see, he wouldn't do. He wouldn't repeat himself like that. And so I'm very honoured. So I'm going to love to come back to Barrow, and
When are you back in Barry? You're here at the Forum.
oh, I'm here at the Forum. Yeah,
You
yeah.
are.
Now it was the last place that we booked, to be honest with
Right.
you, because we were going from Salford to Sunderland, and I said, surely we're passing Barrow, aren't we? If ever you're going to pass Barrow,
Well,
and they said, well, yeah, it's around the corner. So
yeah.
I said, go on, well, we'll nip to Barrow on the way. So it's on the 19th of February.
Right.
And, when I came last time, it was great. There were a lovely art scene. I think a mate of mine, Kev Fegan, was putting on a play there, and
Right.
I was part of like a weekend or something of activity. It seems very much like a creative hub.
It
Uh,
is. It very
yeah,
much
but
is. There's some very talented people here in Barra.
well, I hope they'll come and support us, and
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
and see what's happening in our neck of the woods. I mean, I'm in a little backwater, Fairlight, and I love the fact that you don't come to Fairlight unless you actually come to Fair. If you're going from Hastings to Rye, you go on the big road. You don't come on our road because it's got too many potholes. And I love that sense of you get more of a sense of community where you're not, sort of a town where people just drive through.
Yeah, definitely. Big community here, huge, very, very strong community. And
And you get a
very
good view of
welcoming to you
Morecambe.
as well.
Get a good view of Morecambe. So I'm
Yeah.
looking. I've seen Barrow from Morecambe, so I'm
You might
looking
even
forward.
see, you might be lucky, you might even get a glimpse of the Isle of Man.
Oh,
Okay, well, it's going to be great to see you. 19th of February. Tickets are available from the box office, folks. Usual numbers. We'll put them on our Facebook page, and you can click the link from there. It's been great talking to you. Real pleasure, real privilege. So thank you so much for your time.
thank you very, very much. Cheers.